Philip Rivers announced yesterday morning that after 17 years in the NFL, he has decided that he's going to hang up the jersey. It's over. Career finished. Philip Rivers has decided to retire from the NFL. And it's been a good run for him. His career started, full of drama. He was a big part of the Eli Manning drama in the 2004 draft. Now, for you youngsters out there who don't remember, the Chargers wanted to draft Eli Manning back in 2004, but he wasn't interested in playing in San Diego. He wanted to play in New York. And because his last name is Manning, the family, who at the time was pretty much the patriarch of the NFL, Eli Manning got exactly what he wanted. So he and Philip Rivers essentially swapped teams. Eli to the Giants, Philip Rivers to the Chargers. That single decision changed the career landscape of both Eli Manning and Philip Rivers. We'll never know what would have happened had Philip Rivers been drafted by the Giants. Maybe he is a two-time Super Bowl champion instead of Eli Manning. We will never know. Before we dissect the career of Philip Rivers, let me just say this. He is one of the top character guys in the NFL. 17 years in the league. I have never heard anyone have one negative thing to say about Philip Rivers. No controversy with any of his coaches or of his fellow players. He and his wife do a lot of charity work down here in the South and across the country, to be honest. He doesn't get attention nationally that he deserves for his charity work. And not that he wants the attention. Now, the media locally down here in the South, they do cover some of the charity work that he does. But I bring this up because Philip Rivers is one of the great character guys in the NFL. And he will be missed. Now, with that being said, the question that everyone is asking right now, 5 years from now, will Philip Rivers be inducted into the NFL Hall of Fame? Now, I'm sure there are a lot of you guys who think that this is an easy answer. Obviously, Philip Rivers is a Hall of Famer. He's been a franchise quarterback for 17 years. I don't think the answer here is easy, and I don't think that's the case either. Philip Rivers is not a Hall of Famer. He is not a Hall of Fame quarterback. Over the next few minutes, I'm going to tell you exactly why. First of all, what are the qualifications for a quarterback to be inducted into the Hall of Fame? To be honest, it's completely subjective. Now, in my opinion, the standard should be extremely high. You need to have played at an elite level the majority of your career. You need to have been a top 5 quarterback in the league the majority of your career. You need to make a Super Bowl, preferably win a Super Bowl, but at least make it to a Super Bowl. Now, that's just some examples. But Philip Rivers doesn't meet any of those qualifications that I just listed. Many will point to the fact that his stats are great, all-time great stats. But like I say on here all the time, statistics can be misleading. Dak Prescott's stats are great. Does anyone consider him to be an elite quarterback? Matt Ryan puts up big numbers every year. Every January, he's watching the playoffs from home. Part of the reason Philip Rivers has great stats is because he has been playing for so damn long. He's thrown 421 touchdowns. He's 5th all-time on the list. Yeah, well, he's also thrown 209 interceptions. He's led the NFL in interceptions twice in his career. Look, longevity doesn't equate to a Hall of Fame career. Vinny Testaverde played in the NFL for 21 years. He threw for over 46,000 yards. Does anyone consider Vinny Testaverde to be a Hall of Famer? No. Just because you have big stats due to longevity in the league doesn't mean you're automatically a Hall of Famer. Now, I know what some of you guys are going to say. Vinny Testaverde wasn't nearly as good as Philip Rivers. And that's true. That's true. But there's one word in that sentence that I just said that perfectly describes Philip Rivers. Good. He's always been a good quarterback. He's never been great. Defensive coordinators didn't stay up at night worried about how they were going to defend against Philip Rivers the next day. Great quarterbacks win in the playoffs. Phillip Rivers is 5-7 in the playoffs, completing less than 60% of his passes, 10 interceptions, and 12 career playoff games. I said it a couple of times this season when talking about Phillip Rivers. In big moments, he is the guy that you could always count on to create the game-losing turnover. In 17 years, 15 as a starter, he has just one appearance in the AFC Championship game. Now you tell me how that qualifies him for the Hall of Fame. You can make the case that Phillip Rivers came along at the wrong time. He was playing in a generation with all-time great quarterbacks. And that's true. I mean, Peyton Manning, Tom Brady, Ben Roethlisberger. Those three quarterbacks were representing the AFC in the Super Bowl the majority of Phillip Rivers' career. And I haven't even mentioned Drew Brees, Aaron Rodgers, Russell Wilson, who all play in the NFC. But to make that case is to make my point. The Hall of Fame is for transcendently great players. Quarterbacks who played against each other, against other all-time greats, yet they still thrived, yet they still succeeded. And the truth is, Phillip Rivers never thrived. And it's not like he didn't have talent in San Diego. Antonio Gates, LaDainian Tomlinson. Both of those guys are first ballot Hall of Famers. Well, Antonio Gates will be. Now, Phillip Rivers played with both of them for years. Still couldn't ever win the big game. I have him in the same quarterback class as guys like Matt Ryan, Matt Stafford, Donovan McNabb. Quarterbacks who were good, but not great. Two of the guys on that list I just called out have at least made it to a Super Bowl. Now, does anyone consider Donovan McNabb to be a Hall of Famer? At this point in his career, is Matt Ryan a Hall of Fame quarterback? I mean, let's just look at the last 5 years in San Diego / Los Angeles for Phillip Rivers. The Chargers had talent. Keenan Allen, Melvin Gordon, Melvin Ingram, Joey Bosa, Casey Hayward. They had enough talent on that roster to make the playoffs every year. But they didn't. Phillip Rivers' last 5 years with the Chargers, he made the playoffs once. Once with all that talent. 3 losing seasons in 5 years. Combined record of 35-45. Now compare that to a future first ballot Hall of Famer in Drew Brees. The last few years in New Orleans, he's led the Saints to more wins than any other team in the NFL. 4 straight NFC South Division titles. Another appearance in the NFC Championship game. The 3rd championship game appearance of Drew Brees' career. Once the Saints got talent around Drew Brees, even though it was late in his career, he flourished. My point is, it's not like Phillip Rivers was dealt a bad hand with the Chargers. It's not like he was Sam Darnold with the Jets, playing with no talent around him. You can blame Anthony Lynn for the Chargers' failures, but a lot of the reason they weren't making the playoffs the last 5 years was because of Phillip Rivers. 76 of his 209 interceptions came in the last 5 years that he was with the Chargers. You cannot make the playoffs turning the ball over at that rate. SB Nation made a video a while back. It was titled, "One of the all-time greatest NFL teams didn't even make the playoffs." It was about the 2010 San Diego Chargers. They had the number 2 offense in the league, top 10 defense that year. Usually, that is a recipe for playoff success. They finished 9-7. And the SB Nation video put the bulk of the blame on the Chargers special teams unit, who were absolutely god-awful that year. Phillip Rivers led the NFL in passing that season, 2010, but he was also part of the reason that the Chargers didn't make the playoffs. In the Chargers' 7 losses that season, Phillip Rivers had 9 turnovers in those games. There was a game against the Patriots that season where the defense held Tom Brady and the offense to 179 total yards. New England won that game by 3 points, thanks in part to 4 Chargers turnovers, 2 by Phillip Rivers himself. Now that's just a little summary of what I'm talking about with the career of Phillip Rivers. Elite offense, elite defense, and you find a way to miss the playoffs. The Hall of Fame is not about stats. It isn't about being durable and longevity. The Hall of Fame is reserved for greatness. Players who consistently stepped up in big time moments. Think about it. Just think about it. Just off of the top of your head right now. Name one time in the 17-year career of Philip Rivers that he stepped up in a big game and was great, had a career-defining moment. You can do that easily with Tom Brady, Brett Favre, Peyton Manning, Drew Brees, Ben Roethlisberger, Aaron Rodgers. Ask yourself the question, is Philip Rivers in the same class of quarterback as these all-time greats? The answer is no. Compare him to Eli Manning, since they were part of the same draft class. And this is another example of how stats are overrated. You look at Eli Manning's career throughout the regular season, and he is a mediocre quarterback at best. You can make the case that Philip Rivers is a far greater quarterback than Eli Manning when comparing regular season stats. But what's the difference between Eli Manning and Philip Rivers? At two different points throughout his career, Eli Manning stepped up in big moments. He had career-defining games twice. He got hot at the right time of the year, and he led the Giants to 2 Super Bowl titles. He established a legacy. What is the legacy of Philip Rivers? You tell me. What is Philip Rivers' legacy? He's a quarterback who played well when the pressure wasn't on. But as soon as the lights were bright, when his team needed him the most, Philip Rivers folded. Since everyone's obsessed with stats, just check out this stat. The average NFL quarterback drops 4 points in passer rating in the playoffs. I mean, defenses clamp down in the playoffs, so that's about to be expected. Now, over his career, Philip Rivers in the playoffs drops 11 points in passer rating. He has no individual accolades besides Comeback Player of the Year in 2013. He has never been a first-team All-Pro. Only 4 quarterbacks have made the Hall of Fame without being a first-team All-Pro. Troy Aikman, John Elway, Warren Moon, and Roger Staubach. 3 of those 4 had great success in the postseason, Super Bowl winners. Plus, John Elway would have made the Hall of Fame even if he didn't win 2 Super Bowls to end his career because he was a transcendent player. Dan Fouts was 3-4 in the playoffs. Warren Moon was 3-7. Both of those guys had comparable careers to Philip Rivers. And like Philip Rivers, both of those guys struggled in the playoffs. And both are in the Hall of Fame. So Philip Rivers has a chance. Like I said earlier, the Hall of Fame is subjective. You're voted in. And Philip Rivers is well-liked and well-respected throughout the NFL. But he does not belong in the Hall of Fame. He doesn't belong in the Hall of Fame. If I were voting, which obviously I'm not, but if I were, there's just no way I can induct a player that struggled in big games throughout his career, had talented teams around him, and found ways to miss the playoffs. And throughout 17 years, he doesn't have one career-defining moment. All right, that's all for today. Hit that like and subscribe button. Click the notification bell to receive all notifications from the channel. Leave me a comment in the section below. Am I wrong about Philip Rivers? Does he belong in the Hall of Fame? And if you think he does, tell me why in the comments below. You can follow me on Twitter at KC_BTL84. Best way to contact me is by email at BTLKC84@gmail.com. I'll see you guys next time.